Colleen, you come to every PUD commission meeting, PUD 3 commission meeting since how long have you been?
I started in January.
In January.
The first meeting of January.
Can you tell everybody why?
Well, I'll try to make a long story short. I'm not good at that. 97, I started trying to figure out what makes people sick. And I've been doing a lot of research, starting from parasites, household chemicals, prescription drugs, vaccinations, and ELF and RF and radio microwaves came into my fore. And somehow I came onto the movie Take Back Your Power, and I watched it. And then I started learning about smart meters, because I know of the dangers of RF, ELF, and EMF because of my studies. And so I really wanted to find out about the smart meters, and I've been doing a ton of research. So my first thing, I called PUD 3 in December and asked about, well, are you guys planning on doing this? And they said, oh, yes, we are. It's in the works. We've been deploying them. And oh, wow, really? Well, can I get some information on them? Or, oh, yeah, just come visit our website, and, there's a lot of good information there. And I asked about the opt-out. Yes, there's an opt-out. And they sent me a form, and there's a $50 a month opt-out fee not to have one of their smart meters on my home. However, they still want to replace it with a digital replacement that still transmits and still has a switching mode power supply that emits horrible transients onto my home wiring, in which the smart meters do. So I want to, it's very important I keep my analog meter. They're not hackable. They have great surge protection. The smart meters are lacking. They have surge protection, but it's for their circuit board and does nothing for my home or wiring. But PUD seems to be doing this without telling us. I've done a lot of public records requests and found that actually they were trying to do it without letting the public know. They're just doing it as a project upgrade. And to me, people need to know this stuff. The smart meters, they have interference with medical implants, cochlear implants, insulin pumps. It affects pacemakers. Little kids are more susceptible to RS and ELFs. And, a smart meter on the side of a bedroom is too close for a sleeping child. But these have horrible effects. Tinnitus, ringing in the ears. They have surveillance capabilities, which I really disagree with. They metadata. They want to get all your data and archive it and record it, and then they can go analyze it. And this is also leading to in-home displays that will be talking to your meter, and the meter in turn talks to all the other neighborhood meters. And there's a smart thermostat that they'll be wanting to have us all put in our homes, which they can turn off and on, regulate. What else? Air conditioning, just all kinds of in-home display stuff, communicating with each other and the smart meter and the power company. And it's just really silly. And I mean, where this ends up, wide area networks, home area network would be the first thing. Neighborhood wide area network, LAN, in wide area anyway. But I personally don't want one. And again, PUD still has not reached out to me to tell me that they intend to put one of these on my home. They each have their very own GPS. They have their own IPS or IP address. Why do they have a GPS on them? But they also have 2 radio transmitters, receivers in each meter. One is the Silver Springs network, and it operates at variable frequencies, a little bit lower. The switch mode power supply also operates at frequencies that they don't list. And then there's a Zigbee 2.4, which when it comes online is for communicating with your in-home area network and your appliances and your in-home display, but all of this is emitting frequencies that we really don't want. And I want people to be informed. I want them to go out and find out for themselves. And hey, even if you're into all the technology and stuff, that's fine. But all this stuff is accumulative, and the more you get, it's not good for you. Look at right now, cell phones. They've proven that they're causing brain cancers and salivary tumors, and so that's real interesting. And inside your phone, it tells you, don't hold it next to your body. It tells you about the RF information, but you have to seek it out. It's not like right there. You have to go through several different menus to find that. And anyway, but these smart meters, they're whole body frequencies, and once they're on your wiring system, again, the high transient volts, 60 hertz to 60,000 hertz possibilities, and it depends on what you have plugged into your home as well, because the switch mode power supply is from switching the direct current to AC, and I know it does its own milliseconds, thousands of times milliseconds, and then that transfers into the home wiring as well. Again, if there's a surge protection, hope you have everything plugged into surge protectors, because they won't be covered. If they are a fire hazard. If there happens to be they're not the analog, the smart meters, are a known fire hazard, and it appears that insurance companies are not counting it they're not covering the smart meter fires anyway. They're making it the homeowner's responsibility because of the wiring, apparently. And there's so much information out there, and I'm sure I'm forgetting some. The eavesdropping is really troublesome to me. The archiving of our metadata, second by second utility usage. They've got an extra archive in Spokane, PUD 3 does. So they'll be storing all of our information on 2 archival systems, not just one. And these things are hackable. And plus the smart meters are hackable. People can easily do it, and it's been done. And the cost for the cybersecurity is ridiculous. And it's I'm sure costing PUD quite a lot of money for the cybersecurity.
So, when you say metadata, what are we talking about?
Little itty bitty. From seconds, every second of energy usage, every second, every 10 seconds, the littlest bit of energy you're using, and it's all grouped together in data bits, data packages that are sent wirelessly.
Okay, and what can people do with that if they hack it?
Well, a lot in California, for instance, I guess a lot of this information was sold to companies who produce appliances, and then in turn would send customers emails with coupons for these energy efficient appliances that they know they can use because they've gotten that information out of the metadata, because they can tell what's being used in the home. Something troubling to me in the grid modernization white paper that I requested from PUD, one of the things it showed was that due to the grid modernization, they will be able to determine who uses wood heat only. Why do they need to know who uses wood heat only? But that's an example of what could be determined. Apparently, I guess they could just show that they're not using a heater, so then they can say, oh, well, then, in the wintertime they must be using wood heat, or, I'm not sure, but there's ways to analyze all of that data. That's in the glossary I gave you in that notebook. There's a term in there that says what the name of that metadata is, and kind of how to find it, and it's in the glossary.
Okay. You talked about the opt-out form, and you've been instrumental in changing that a bit?
Well, I'm not sure. In my most recent public records request, I've made a lot of them, and I've got to say, PUD 3 employees are great on one-on-one, and they've been responsive to all my requests, always nice. They're great people. I just wish this wasn't going on. But anyway, I had did a revision of their notice of impending installation, and because there was so little information really on it, and apparently in the public request there's a document, it was an email that was sent just showing a new opt-out form, showing radio frequency meter, which in previous documents they had it in there. I've looked at drafts. It was in there, then it was stricken out, so who knows? We'll see what they intend to do. I'm wanting on the next meeting, under the circumstances, I'd really like to ask the commissioners to put a 2-month repeal, say, on the opt-out fee. And just say, anybody in the next 2 months in Mason County, if you want to opt out at no cost, maybe one upfront cost could be fair, but, and see how many opt-outs they get. 100% of the people I've talked to since I found out about this have no clue that PUD is doing this. And anybody who then finds out about the opt-out fee, they say, oh, well, then, that's a lot. And yeah, $50 a month is a lot. But if there weren't that fee there, anyone I've talked to said they'd opt out in a heartbeat.
Are you talking about RF?
Radio frequencies.
Well, from the smart meter.
Mm-hmm.
How does that differ from a cell phone or a Wi-Fi network?
Well, it doesn't a whole lot.
Okay.
Other than it is pulsed. A cell phone is also pulsed at times, not all the time. So it isn't a lot different. It is on 24/7. You are, even though it says they communicate with the utilities for seconds after midnight, 5 seconds after midnight, yet these things are still communicating continually with each meter, all the meters together. They're continually syncing up time and identity and sending information continually. But the RF it's there all the time, 24/7. It doesn't go away. You can't turn it off at night. Doesn't go away.
Okay. And you talked about the health issues. Are there
A few,
yeah. Are there any other concerns that you have?
Oh, Lord. Just so, transparency, I think, is real important, and the truth. And, yeah, these smart meters down the line, there's this huge, big picture, this huge, giant agenda coming down, but my main concern is just in Mason County right now. Once these radio frequencies start bouncing around all over the place, they don't go away, and people can be sensitive to them. I feel these tingly, itchy, stingy feelings when I get around certain Wi-Fi. I feel it, and every once in a while get a quick headache, and then everyone ringing in the ears when I'm around it. So those are just a few, but this stuff, it affects, it breaks down your blood-brain barrier. It's known to. So then stuff that's in your blood gets into your brain that's not supposed to be there. People are getting a lot of brain cancers and brain infections. It's just not anything I want in my home. And as I've told you, I don't own a cell phone. Mm-hmm. I have no wireless into my home. I don't have internet. I don't have cable. Not that cable's bad, but, I guess if Ethernet would be good, I'll be checking into that. But PUD has given me the option now at this point to, when it comes time, either they want to install a radio off digital meter on my property, which still has a switch mode power supply, which still emits all of the dirty electricity and high transient volts into my wiring. Still doesn't have the surge protection that this analog has. This analog meter is tried and true. Not fire causing. You can't hack it, as I said, and it's really good. And again, I have 3 new ones. I can replace this easily. But again, if they want me to, at my expense, they'll replace the digital meter with the radio off, with still the components in it, and then I will have to still pay the $50 a month manual reader fee to come read my meter once a month. And that takes, anytime they come read my meter, they stand probably over there. They're in my yard maybe 15 seconds, they pull, and then they go. Mm-hmm. And I'm supposed to pay $50 a month for that. In
your neighborhood here, real quiet and rural.
Yeah.
Has anybody had their meter changed out?
Yes. One of my neighbors back there told me about theirs. There is a neighbor over here who years ago got one of the older iTron, I guess when they first came out. He actually requested it, apparently. But they're not, they're, until we get a lot of meters, that's when they're communicating to each other. If you're in a neighborhood with all smart meters, just walk around with a meter, and it's gonna be going off like crazy. And then some homes, if they're lucky enough to have a collector meter, that then in turn it collects all of the data of these meters. So there's only so many in a neighborhood. They might be up to 500 homes on one. So 500 homes could be communicating with this one meter. Then in turn at some point that will send it off. And that's you don't want one of those on your home, and the people who do have them don't know. I mean, just people don't know any of this unless they've, I work 3 shifts a week, and so I'm able to take the time to do a lot of research, which I have done, and I wish everybody else could and at least just get the basics enough to know that we really need to stand up in Mason County and say no. Get our voices heard.
Have you talked to other neighboring communities about what they're doing?
No. I've just been attending meetings. I've put up signs. I bought shirts. I talk to everybody I can. Anybody who brings it up or asks me about my shirt, I tell them as much as I can as with the time that they allow me.
So, okay, from here, let's go. Show your notebooks. We're good. Let's start with all your notebooks.
Well, first, these here are some of the public records requests I just got. So they're not in a notebook yet, but some of the previous stuff I was telling you about is in here. Very interesting. Okay, my notebook collection, my research. This notebook is pretty much articles, information, the same stuff I provided in the notebook I gave to you today. Just a few stuff that is not in your notebook. Really important articles. One of my favorite is, by the way, the precautionary principle. I introduced this to our commissioners and PUD manager in relation to the smart meters, which I think is a really good idea. But anyway, there's the article, the meter itself is the hazardous condition. Really good one to read, and you can just look that up on the internet, anybody who can. As I said, Occupational Medicine International Association of Firefighters.org, and their position on radio frequency waves and why they will have no cell towers on their firehouses. And lots of links to studies. I mean, lots and lots. Also give a lot of health concerns. State kept secret guidelines on safe cell phone use. This is a San Francisco Chronicle article dated March 3rd, 2017. PUD 3 kept telling me that smart meters are safer than cell phones. Well, I've been trying to tell them, well, cell phones aren't really all that safe either. So, and then this is just an article, but this is an important one. Austin Energy has to replace all of their smart meters. I think they're giving it 4 years to the tune of $28 million. And this is a 12-page document. Something coming down the road for us. Austin, Texas is requiring all new homes to have smart thermostats. Wonder why. Might want to check into that. This notebook, this is just all my current stuff I'm working on. I've got all my past PUD bills, probably about 3 years worth. Newsletters. I went back and checked every one just for any information on the smart grid to see if it was in there. Did they inform us? No, they didn't. Just a lot of current work, real interesting stuff. Okay. This one, FCC notebook, and this notice, this is from the Focus manual, the meter manual, and it tells you right here, for RF exposure, service personnel are to maintain a minimum of 20 centimeters from the RF communications transmitter once installed. That's your smart meter. It's a Class D digital device. And this page also came from the manual for the Focus meters. Lists all of the FCC ID numbers, and the Canadian, I guess it kind of like the same as the FCC, only in Canada. But all the numbers, and if you can go look these up, and then it breaks down what they are, what they do. And it's real interesting. The Silver Springs Network and the Zigbee both are not supposed to be co-located together. Each antenna in the FCC report and the manufacturing report says that this is not to be co-located with another antenna. Well, these are two really strong antennas in a very small area. And again, they do emit different frequencies. Okay, real quick on this one. This I wanted to share. 47C.F.R chapters, regulations, all that, prohibits operating a device under Part 15.9 for the purpose of eavesdropping except when under lawful authorities of law enforcement or when all parties in a conversation consent. This is in our smart meters, folks. But anyway, and then just so much more, and I'll be putting more stuff together for the commissioners and PUD, just, regarding FCC stuff. And they're not licensed either. They're not UL licensed, and they're not, the components inside might be licensed, but the meter itself is not. This notebook, this is all I could find from PUD 3. Information on our grid modernization project going back to the spring of 2016, and it talks updating our system for your benefit, and then it goes into describing what is grid modernization. This is what they showed us. This is it. That's it. Until it comes time to get your smart meter and you get this notice, and not a whole lot here for us. Doesn't tell you that you're getting a RF emitting device, and that if you have medical implants or medical concerns or conditions, you might want to opt out because they do interfere and back and forth. Their devices can also interfere with the smart meters. Then it says this, and then they send you this, and it just doesn't tell you much of anything on there about the smart meters. And then a planned power notification for they're upgrading their meter. So that's it. That's the information PUD has given us. And so here's my revision. A friend, Sandy, and I put it together and I submitted it at the last commission meeting. This is their current opt-out form. So we'll see. There could be changes, but this notebook is also, I've printed all the commission meetings dating back to January 13th of 2015. And this is the first date where the grid modernization was brought up, even though I read the archives all the way, I believe, 2012. And you've been to every single meeting, almost. You weren't at this one. I was wishing you had a recording of the meeting from February 9th, 2016, when the opt-out fee was brought up. And there was I can't believe the lack of discussion regarding that fee. It was just brought up, recommended, brought up. They voted on it, and it was passed. It was like no discussion. It was just, wow. Okay. Another notebook. This is the Landis+Gyr meter manual, and it's quite. There's a lot here. A whole lot here. I wanted to show the glossary. Pulses are active for a minimum of 1 minute and a maximum of 24 hours depending on the meter's clock at power up. For a demand meter, the pulses always continue for 24 hours after power up. The calibration output pulse restarts after a power cycle. Right there it tells you. Okay, here's their information on how to program the meters and all of their glossary. Well, not necessarily glossary terms, but how it all works and how to enter it into, and set up the program. The glossary. Okay, Landis+Gyr glossary. And this is so important for everybody to know because this also, people, they want us to go to time of use, time of day, tiered billing, which means we're not going to be able to afford to do laundry or cook dinner at 6 o'clock at night. We're going to be doing our laundry at 3 in the morning because that's when it's going to be the cheapest for us. And they will penalize us for using power during peak times. So here, okay, ABT in the glossary, availability-based tariff. This is good. It is a performance-based tariff for the supply of electricity by state-owned generators. It is also a new system of scheduling and dispatch which requires both generators and consumers to commit to predefined schedules which are enforced with a system of rewards and penalties. That just really gets me. It just, what are the rewards? What are the penalties? Anyway, there's in this glossary, it also tells you what the name of as I said, the metadata information is and how you can actually find it, or the name of it within the file to go find it. And on the hot socket issue, we didn't even discuss this. This is I brought this information to the very first PUD3 meeting. Oh, and by the way, everything we've got here, I have provided to the PUD3 commissioners, some of the engineers, and after I found out about Annette's title and her role, I started giving her everything, and Annette Creekbaum, the manager. And I love this. I mean, the second page on this, and it's hot socket issues regarding the smart meters and possible fire hazards, and how to watch out for them, and how not to tell the public or the media because it could be taken out of context. Well, this is a concern, hot socket issues and fires and arcing because they don't fit properly. And but that's something that was put out by Tesco Landis-Gear. I've provided the commissioners with books, Public Health SOS. Dirty, let's see, An Electronic Silent Spring, Dirty Electricity by Samuel Milham, and also the book Disconnect by Deborah Davis. I don't have any copies of that. The reason I have this pile in my truck is I brought this to a commission meeting, I think it was in June, and came to find out they didn't document or record the information I had given. I thought in the meetings they record what you give them if you give it to the person keeping time. And anyway, they refused to document this information. And I hate to say this, but I was told because, and I won't say the name, but she said she didn't believe in the science. It has nothing to do with recording. You could call it unsolicited materials and show what they were. But that was, so anyway, I have it in my truck. Actually, the meter reader that came over last week, I tried to, he said he hadn't read the meter manual, which I think all installers should read the meter manual and know what they're dealing with. And he said he hadn't. And anyway, so I offered him the manual and he refused it, which that was his choice. Just like it's my choice to not want a meter. It's my choice, and that's what I want. They're taking away my choice. $50 is not a choice.
Yeah. So you're if you can, I guess, summarize your issues here. I mean, if you could do it in 30 seconds, can you?
Well, the $50 opt-out fee a month, all the health concerns and surveillance issues with the smart meters, and just having a choice, being able to say no. I don't want to accept, it's they're the only power source in the county, or the only other than they suggest I get solar or wind, and then that would solve my problem with them. Otherwise, I can pay for their meters and have, dangerous meter on my property.
Those are the questions that I had.
Okay.
Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I don't know. Can you think of anything? I think we've pretty much covered it. There's a lot of information in my thing. I tell people, don't take my word for it. Go find out for yourself. And don't take PUD3's word for it either. Go and find out for yourself, and until you feel you're informed.